Hello. I thought I would put out just a quick video. Um, and it's something that, I don't know, I think it was about 3 days ago. I was just laying in bed, hadn't gotten up out of bed in the morning yet, saying my prayers, because I'm not working yet. Though I go to work next in a week, so hopefully. So I got a lot of time. And I was saying my prayers and thinking about everything. And it kind of occurred to me, you know, different things lead to different things in my thought processes. I'll tell you what led up to this before I say what occurred to me, all right? I to backtrack, investigate here. What brought me to this thought? Well, I was going to make a video about the Bible verses where Jesus said, don't give your pearls, your treasures to pigs or dogs. They'll trample all over it. And, I've shared my personal treasures on this channel for a number of years now. I've grown older on this channel. God, looking at myself when I started this, I thought I was old then. Imagine that. I've shared everything sacred to me, really, on here. And for the most part, people have been pretty polite with me and receptive, and if they don't believe it, they don't believe it. But, I put it out there on the World Wide Web, everything, all my treasures, of my loves, my heartaches, the truths, my experiences, my family, the passing of people I love very much, everything. My treasures, my love for God, my life with God, my journey like you, we're all going through a journey, my testimony. But I do this also offline. I don't just do this on YouTube. I do this, I don't just go around preaching to people, but quite a bit. When I see the opportunity, I will definitely talk about the same things you hear about on this channel. People that know me face-to-face encounters have heard the same stories. And I always try to give glory to God. I talk about God always. But sometimes I tell these to people and they don't believe me, which is perfectly fine. I'm not offended in the least bit if somebody doesn't believe me. But now and then you can get some people that can be pretty rude. But you know what? I'm the one putting the story out there. Nobody told me to share this. Well, Christ told us to pick up our cross and stuff. We're supposed to go out and bear fruit. But at what point, I was thinking, this is what brought me to what this video is about. This is a prelude. At what point are you throwing your treasures to pigs and dogs? And I'm going to read those verses. Hold on. All right, I guess you're going to get two videos in one. I was going to do this video the other day, but man, I had like a dental misadventure a week ago. My mouth is so sore, and it still is, but not as bad. I couldn't really talk. It hurt too much to talk. The dentist messed up, and he's doing something with some tools, and he slipped, and he stabbed. He harpooned me with whatever he had in his hand between my cheek and my jawbone, stabbed it straight down. So that's been healing up, and it's been pretty sore. I didn't condemn the man. He's been my dentist for almost 15 years, and he's always done good. Everybody has a bad day. So he had a bad day, so did I. Thanks to his bad day. So this is what I was going to talk about the other day. So you're going to get two topics. I'm going to talk about this because this led me into what I was going to talk about, a lesson that came together for me. Okay, in Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. Jesus told his disciples this, I believe. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. And a couple more chapters, chapter 10 forward in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 14. Along the same note, as Jesus was sending his disciples out, 2 by 2, Jesus was sending his disciples out, 2 by 2. And he told them, if anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Again, as Christ was in Matthew 10, verse 14, as Christ was sending his disciples out, he told them, if anyone does not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. So, at what point do you say that? I mean, I'll tell you what, I believe in making ripples, good ripples, right? Not bad ripples in life. Every little thing we do has a ripple effect. I think there's a lot to that, you know, in a cosmic sense, in a divine sense, in our own, us too. And other people's ripples hit us all the time, don't they? We're all part of the big pond of creation. But, I don't want this to fall. Excuse me. Playing this a lot lately. So when you're out making ripples for Christ, make a big splash or a little splash, either way, you're making just said, hey, you look good today, or good morning, how are you? That's a ripple. That's a little, you're impacting somebody in a good way. That's a good ripple. Hey, I hope you have a good day, you know, or how you doing today? I know the other day you said you weren't doing too well. I just want to know how you're doing. Anything I can do to help? That's a good ripple. Whatever stones God gives you to make ripples in life, use them. Might be a boulder, might be a pebble. But make use of them. Good ripples. But you're going to meet people who don't want your good ripples. And I'll give you an example. Because I blog a lot. You know, I'm on the internet. I don't just talk out for Christ and God. I don't just tell my testimony on YouTube. I tell it to people face to face. I wrote a book about it. I plan to write another one. I actually sold a few copies of it. I hadn't sold in a while. So, nothing big. But sometimes I blog, and I'll deliberately go into a blog that's full of atheists or Muslims or non-Christians or just secular people. And I'll tell them my testimony, not attacking anyone. I don't have to attack anyone. I'll just tell them my testimony, and they either accept it or they don't. And I'll get attacked. I mean, if it's an active blog where there's, a lot of people, maybe hundreds, actively getting in on it, this chain of thought. One in particular was Charles Bukowski, the American poet. He was kind of a worldly man he came into vogue in the 70s when he was just kind of a beer-drinking nobody out in L.A., but he wasn't exactly a bad guy or a good guy, but he definitely wasn't a Christian. Nevertheless, I kind of like some of his stuff. Some of it, most of it, no. Well, somebody asked on this Charles Bukowski site that I was part of, what do you think happens after death? Because Bukowski didn't think anything happened. He was just told he didn't believe in anything spiritual at all. And most people they didn't have much good to say. They didn't believe anything happened. They just made a big joke out of it. That's what Bukowski did. And, I said, no, you're going to go meet the Lord. And I said, I know this. And they want to know, do you believe in an afterlife? Well, do I tell these people about visiting my dear mom? or visitations from Jen, or my friend Brian, or some of my spiritual stories, or my encounters with God and his angels, or God working in my life, things that are sacred to me, or things that are just hard lessons, demonic attacks, evil exists too. Am I going to share that with this group of secular, mostly men? They're going to jump all over me. They're going to tear me to pieces. I know it. You know what? I did anyway. And they jumped all over me. And some of them said some very, very rude things. But you know, one or two of them didn't. A couple of them said, "You're right." And they liked what I had to say. So, you know, I asked myself, at what point should I not share personal treasures of mine? I probably should leave Jen out of it, or my mom, or I could talk about Christ. They're going to attack that. At what point do we wipe the dust off our feet and walk away? Well, if I reached a couple of people, even though the mass of the crowd turned on me, I don't really have an answer for that question yet. I think Jen definitely, she wouldn't, I'll keep looking over at her picture on the wall. She would not have wanted me to talk about her to public, but she's not here anymore. And I'm pretty sure her perspectives on things have changed a bit. My mom wouldn't have minded at all. She would have been honored. Jen was a very private person. She loved God. She believed in Jesus, and that saved her. I believe this, and I hope this. But she kept her life very personal, very private, which I respect. So I was wondering, I've been sharing my personal treasures with the world on the internet, in person. I will at the workplace only if people bring it up, you know. And most people, if you talk to people for a long time, even rather godless people will bring up something, a question, because everybody wonders about these things. Well, there's my opportunity to come in and tell them my testimony. And I will tell them my testimony. And, you know, I've had people tell me that they can listen to me talk about God because I'm not shoving it down their throats. If they say they don't believe it, I don't sit here and say, well, you're wrong. You know, I'd more like to say, well, I don't blame you for not believing it. I said, but I saw it and I heard it and I've experienced this. And that's why I'm telling you about it, because if seeing's believing, I'm here to tell you I've seen it. You know, I've believed it. I've experienced it. And then I let it go and just, you know, not beat them over the head with it and just kind of let that, see what the seeds and what they grow to be at that point. And don't beat people up over it. Never just say, hey, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. Don't argue with anybody. Respect their beliefs, even if they're not yours or mine. But I'll plant the seeds and see what comes of it. And that's what I do anyway. But at what point are you... I think, in Jesus' time, and in our time as well, depends upon what crowd you're in. I've been doing some research, like on that video I made about the unknown facts that I didn't know about the life of St. Valentine. He was a much more spiritual person than just, you know, marrying people and believing in love. He was a believer in Jesus Christ and spreading the word, and right at every chance he had. And his Roman society, the third century AD, they were rather permissive of Christians. Though officially it was illegal to be a Christian, but they didn't really, unlike what you see on the movies, it wasn't an automatic death sentence to be a Christian. It depended upon the time and the place you were in. If you were a Christian during the time of Nero, it was death sentence. But different people, different governors that governed the provinces, some of them vowed, I will never shed the blood of a Christian, and other ones were strict. So it was kind of iffy, and the Romans saw Christianity back then during Valentine's time, in the first couple of centuries after Christ was crucified and rose, AD, they saw Christianity as a superstitious cult. Like you might see, I don't know, superstitious cult. There's plenty of them. Pick one that we as Christians believe are superstitious cult. Pagans, Wiccan, I would say personally. But they saw Christianity as a dangerous superstitious cult. Dangerous that they believed it subverted men's minds and made them act insane and think insane things. Like in the resurrection of the Son of God, with Jesus, whatever. But, where am I going with this? Sorry. This is what happens when I free think. Well, today it's the same thing. Some groups may persecute you. At what point, like in Jesus' time, you never think of it, but his disciples, they were all martyred. Christ died on the cross, of course, and rose again on the third day. I was sure, but the disciples, all but one, were martyred. They were going around preaching, and they had to have met people that laughed at them, people that thought they were nuts. You don't really hear about that. You just hear about people either adored them, or they were interested in them, or they wanted to persecute them. But there were probably a lot of people that laughed at them and made them out to be weirdo quacks, because that's what the Romans saw it as, a superstitious cult. Christianity at first. So at what point do you turn and leave, wipe the dust off your feet? I've come to that a few times, where I will say something within me tells me that. Maybe it's the Spirit of God, where it says, okay, enough's enough. Anymore, if you've done what you're supposed to do, anymore would dishonor and discredit the Lord's work. It would be a discredit to myself too at this point. Depends upon the situation. But there does come a point where, without anger, I will just say, all right, that's enough. And I'll turn and walk away, leave this alone. So, to today, that was the message I was going to message. Yeah, it's a message, something I wanted to share. And I'm glad to be able to share it, quite frankly. Honored. But that was a couple days ago. I was going to talk about that, but I couldn't talk comfortably. And my face was swollen. And that two of my videos, my face is swollen, and still is on this side. Hey, I'm fat and I'm old, but not so fat. This side's swollen. I want to say that. And it is in a couple of the other videos. My lips swollen too on the bottom. So if I look strange, I look strange. Hopefully it clears up soon. I was thinking about that a couple days ago. About all the things I've been through that I've talked about on this channel. I've talked about some things that aren't so monumental, and I've talked about some things I think were big events, seeing angels and things like God talking to me and things like that, and other things, but in a lot of just Tim Blab, or walking the dog, or playing the guitar, or talking about a beer. And it occurred to me, all these things together, all these things, from me seeing the angels saving my life. I told somebody about that a few days ago, and they were really inspired. I was talking to this person I met in a store, and they really wanted to hear it. And they really looked moved. They thanked me for sharing that with them. All these things, the visitations from the people I love so much. My mom, Jen, my friend Brian, who died when I was like 16. He was killed. I believe God allowed them to visit me. I don't think, and I 100% personally believe they were visitations, because there were 4 visitations. Brian, my mother, shortly after they died, not immediately after they died. Brian was about a year or 2 later. My mom was a few months, And dear Jen was probably about 6 or 7 months. It happened a couple of different times. I believe God allowed them to do this. God knows what's going on. You think God, He knows what's going on. You know, and I believe God allowed this to happen because every time it was to give me words of encouragement. You know, I'm not going to tell the stories again. If you want to know the stories, if you hadn't heard them, ask me. I'll give you the links to the stories. These videos are long enough as it is. But every time I had a visitation from somebody I loved dearly, an integral piece of my life that had transcended over to the spirit world before me. I like that better than saying died before me. They always had something that they always had a message of hope and love. Hope, love, and guidance and love, encouragement. All of them. Right up to my dear Jen. It wasn't that long ago. It'll be 2 years this week when she died. That, my stories of the angels, every Christian story I've told on here, everything I've read out of this book, they all come together to say one thing. We are loved. I'm loved. Every story about God I've talked about. God in an army truck. The medallion in the grass, which I have, and I still have it. All the stories I've told, they really have one message. You're loved. We love you. We care about you. We're watching you. And I'm spiritually inclined. It's the way I was wired. I'm one of those people since childhood. But maybe this is why, so I can share this with people. Because right now I'm not having a lot of that spiritual stuff happen in my life. It doesn't happen all the time. I've got a life to live too. And, you know, I'm here for the same reasons you are. To live life and do whatever I'm supposed to be doing, learn from it. And, you know, so God gives me some time out for whatever His purpose is. And this is like a time out. But I was thinking about it. Everything I've talked about on this channel, with a few exceptions. I mean, the Christian stuff and the spiritual stuff. Right down to the demonic attacks where the name of Jesus Christ, both times, banished him. Tells us one thing, that we are loved. We're loved by God, and we're loved by our family in heaven. We're loved by the angels who work for God. So these things happen to me, like I was saying, because I'm wired to have these things happen. I'm going through a period where they're not, but I've had a lot. You follow my channel. I have no reason to believe that it's no different for you. That's why I'm sharing this with you, whoever you are. You're loved. I'm no better person than you are. I'll bet you in some ways I'm worse. I am far from perfect. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I've got stuff I'm ashamed of. You know, but if I'm loved like that, you're loved like that. You're very special to God. Very, very special. So, I think that just sums up everything I've had to say on this channel. You're loved by God. That's pretty much what this says. If it tells us how to live our life, it's because He loves us. If it tells us how to find eternal life through His Son, Jesus Christ, it's because He loves us. So, all right. That's all I had to say on this one. My mouth's feeling a little better. I hope it continues. All right, that's all. Thank you.